Welcome back for another review of Star Wars The Acolyte. Episode 5 is in the books, and there's only 3 parts to go. Joining me tonight is not only Randy, but he's back. It's Kieran, and we have a fun little episode to get into tonight, fellas. First off, how you guys doing? And right off the top, initial non-spoiler thoughts of this episode here tonight.
Well, I'll definitely say this. I was looking forward to this just because I knew we got our Sith character at the end of the last episode. And when you messaged me earlier saying, I have high hopes for this episode because episode 5 seems to have some really big things going on in it, and you listed all the series that did it, and you know what? You were fucking right, man. There was some big stuff going on this episode, and I wouldn't say it fully redeemed itself, but I would say it's definitely it was a lot better than the last episode, hands down.
I don't even know, like, how do you do a non-spoiler for that? Like, I want to spoil it right now. Like, I don't know. That's a loaded question. I really liked it, and actually it was in step with what you guys were talking about last episode. It was kind of, since I wasn't on last week, it was kind of weak, and then the last 5 minutes made you go like, oh shit, like, let's get next week. Which I said already is kind of the calling card of this this whole series, is that you want to watch the next episode right away. You want to binge it. But yeah, it was a fantastic episode. It was, I don't know if you can say it made up for the last episode, because when I rewatch it, I'm still going to have to watch that kind of like, even though it was the main quest, it kind of seemed like a side quest in a way. Like, just, oh, there's also bugs and whatever. We killed one. And there's also this, and, whatever. But anyways, very excited to talk about this episode.
Yeah, I mean, episode 4, I guess it was for me, the low point in the series. And I agree with you, Kieran. It's hard to not talk spoilers while talking about this episode, so I'll leave it at this. It was a lot better than last week, and yet it could have been great. And for me, it was just good. And we'll dive into the good and the bad. Um, there's a lot of like nuanced things, though. If we would have had more time with an episode, they probably could have gotten a little more into it. But Kieran, specifically with you, I don't know how Randy is with like lightsaber battles and techniques and stances and forms and stuff like that. But there were a couple of things that really stood out to me about choices that were made during the fight sequence in this that I don't think are just a nod to something, and rather something more, obviously. So without further ado, let's get into it. We'll be all over the place with this episode. If anybody who's watching live or after the fact wants to comment on it, feel free to share your full spoiler thoughts in the comment section now, or the comment section down below afterwards. Also, to note, this will be our last Legacy of Star Wars live stream on this channel. Any future content you can find on the Legacy of Star Wars channel on YouTube. And in case anyone missed the announcement from yesterday, we are bringing Fandom Empire to an end and dividing all of our content up into the appropriate channels. So Fandom Empire will become Haddonfield and Beyond. The Legacy of Westeros is up and running now, and we have the Legacy of Star Wars that's in its infancy. And you'll also be able to catch all of our content to some extent on podcatchers as well, which I know, Kieran, that's something you used to utilize. And when I did Star Wars Wastelands back in the day, we did that. We haven't utilized it at all in several years, and we're going to start doing that, and it'll help with audience growth, and I just think quality as well. So be on the lookout for all that. And thanks to our sponsors for allowing us to be here. Jesse, Storytime Spectacular, Matt and Chris, Jason Nike from Backtrack Cinema, and Ryan from Colleague Nation. If it wasn't for you guys, it'd be really hard to do this, and same with our patrons. Without further ado, let's get into this video game of an episode, Star Wars The Acolyte, Episode 5. Kieran, you missed last week, so I'm going to let you kick it off, man. where do you want to begin? And just take it away.
I sort of begin with like a funny little point. I don't know if anybody else felt this way, but when we first saw Osha waking up and it did not know that the battle was still going on, did anybody else think that we were going to get robbed of this whole battle and he like disappeared? You got the feeling I got. I even said it to Alicia. I was watching it with my wife, and I was like, "Oh, they're gonna rob us of this. Like, is this? We're not getting it till later." And I was just like, you could tell I was getting pissed off. And then I heard the lightsaber humming. I'm like, she's like, "No, we're gonna get him." Like, okay, all right. But I thought the lightsaber combat was fantastic. I always have a little bit of nitpicky type of things to do with any sort of fighting because I have a expensive fighting background. But I loved most of this. It was very much continuing on the idea of like old Japanese fighting techniques with the swords and stuff like that. The way that they artistically move their body and stuff. It was less fencing like Count Dooku and less like kendo type of stuff, and more like the fancy wobbly swords that they used in old Japanese kung fu movies, I guess would say, which I thought was really cool. The thing that I want to bring up, because we can all talk about whether it was great lightsaber combat or not, and I don't think there's really too much to expand upon. I think Sean has a few things to say. But did anyone else think through the episode that the Acolyte could have been many different people? No? That was what I loved about the episode, was that I thought it might have been Master Indira at one point, and then I saw these big muscular arms, and I thought maybe it was the person helping May out, which is what it turned out to be. And then, like, I kind of went back and forth, and I was like, oh, maybe it's a new character. I kind of like went back and forth thinking who it was until I got a little bit more of a closer look at the body type, and then I knew it was the dude who was helping May out. But I liked that it kind of confused me as to whether it could be this person or that person until it was evident. So I thought that was the coolest part to start out the episode.
I mean, I always felt that May was meant to be the Acolyte just because he even said it. Kamir said, I want to have my Acolyte. And I'm not going to lie, I don't think Kamir is a Sith Lord. I think he is a Sith apprentice. He has a master. Because he wouldn't have made those mistakes that he made during the fight if it wasn't for the fact that he was an apprentice. He just got arrogant and cocky, and he got outsmarted for a brief moment that took him away from the battle. But ultimately, the fight itself was brutal. It was brilliant. I really enjoyed seeing the different styles. Obviously, I will say, like with Master Soul, there's, even though we know that canonically Mace Windu is the creator of the Vapad stance, we also know that there was some very similar. There's some similarities there with Soul's style because of the aggressiveness and how his emotion kind of drives his style just a little bit. But ultimately, I mean, I thought the nonstop action was great. Seeing one of the comments in the chat, all the non-named Jedi are going to not make it home, as someone predicting that. I'll be damned, you were right. Which I thought was crazy, but still, it just showed how skilled Kamir really is. And I will give the dude credit that portrays Kamir, the menace and the expression, how it changed from, when we see him hanging upside down in the tree to this, Sith apprentice, where you could feel that, you almost feel the dark side. You can almost feel the hate and the evil coming off him. So I'll give him credit that the presence he commanded with this was really well done. And it sucks that we lost a couple of really kind of cool characters, even though we didn't get a ton of time with them. But we knew this was going to happen anyway this season, that we were going to lose people we knew that we might end up liking. Honestly, I was waiting for Soul to die because there were just many opportunities that I felt like he was just left wide open, and I was kind of surprised that he survived.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's kind of inevitable that he has to die now. It's coming one way or another. I thought the lightsaber combat in this episode was really, really well done. Um, I think the things that stood out to me most in terms of the combat were Kymir, I believe his name is, the who we believe is the Sith apprentice. Um, you have moves that are literally taken from Palpatine in the Palpatine versus Windu fight, and Soul is using some of the similar moves that Windu uses. Obviously, Chimeras are sped up a bit compared to what we see Palpatine do with it, but like we're talking exact movements from Revenge of the Sith. I'm sure that's done by choice and not done by accident, which would make sense because if he's a Sith, then somewhere along the line we're going from him and someone else to him and someone else to eventually Palpatine. So it would make sense. The uh, the lightsaber combat was amazing, right? Like, probably, in my opinion, the best lightsaber combat on screen we've gotten since Revenge of the Sith, and I think that's saying so. I can't think of a project since then where we've gotten lightsaber combat that good. You know, maybe The Force Awakens, but even then, you're dealing with a guy who wants to be a Sith and someone who is just unleashing the Force for the first time. Where this guy's obviously incredibly well trained. I wasn't at all surprised it was him. I know you missed last week, Kieran, but I said to Randy, I'm like, he gets off that ship with May, and he totally Jar Jar Binks the bin there, and I'm just like, that's too obvious. Like he's already been that way a couple of times. I'm like, this guy is not that stupid, or else why would he even be there?
Yeah,
And
and he
sure,
made the poison and everything. He's very knowledgeable, obviously, but
and then Jade, who hasn't seen anything until from episode 3 and 4, was sitting beside me, and this is before the mask comes off, and she's like, "It's the guy from the Good Place." I'm like, "You sure?" I'm like, "I'm pretty sure it is too," but she had a little bit of a different reasoning for it. I guess the guy's really jacked, as we seen, and sure enough, they kept them covered throughout the first 4 episodes, but they came.
yeah.
Yeah, she knew instantly, and I felt like I knew last week. I didn't think there was any other place they could go with his character specifically. But yeah, I the lightsaber combat was unreal and worth watching on replay again and again. I thought the episode lacked in several other areas, though. Um, but we'll get into that eventually. It was, I guess, the Yord Horde. Is that what they're calling them online? They're, probably not thrilled at the moment. I seen a lot of things online about, okay, so all the red shirt Jedi are dead and Jackie Yord and Solo make it out of this. And it's like, nope. So I did like that swerve. And I liked the Sith Chimera, or whatever his actual name is. My money is on Tenebris. Someone remember that. Um, my guess is that it's Tenebris, like I said, but like his acting, the way that he presented himself, the second the mask comes off, it was like, oh, okay, now you're. It's almost it's the Palpatine. Let's remove the political mask and bring out Sidious, and um, like just I wish we had spent more time with that version of the character. Um, Up until this point, I know they're trying to do this mystery. I don't think it was very well done. I thought it was very well done the first 2 episodes, and then I thought it stopped being a mystery after that. Um, but I'm excited to spend 3 more episodes, hopefully, I think, anyways, with that character. And I don't necessarily disagree with some of his motivations either. So I don't want to get into like the negative stuff yet. So let's focus on the positive here, guys. What else did you guys like or love about the episode?
I mean, so I was disappointed that Jackie died way more than Yord. I'll get that out of the way. I like Jackie a lot, and Yord was Yord until he died. So he was a solidly, like, he did what he had to do. I'm doing this because I was told I would ever. I'm trying to be a good Jedi, whatever, and he died for it. And it's cool that, and I mean, he died because he didn't bring her back to the ship. He was like, "Fine, I'll listen to you. We won't go through the bugs." Um, but like there was a lot of things. Actually, I think my score is going to be very different than yours. I actually have very little in the way of negative to say about this episode. So um, I I can't even I actually can't even think of a negative thing to say about the episode. To be honest, I like. I like the lightsaber combat. I liked the once again. I like that Yor died because he stopped doing what he was supposed to do, and I liked the fight. The fight with Jackie and May was also really cool. I liked the Force push through the building, and then there was lots of like cool, and even with them martial arts moves, and even between May and Osha at the end with the like arm breaker moves and the reversals and stuff like that. Very kung fu-ish. I thought that's going all the way through it, and it makes sense because they're all trained by in Jedi martial arts, which I guess is a thing now. I'm honestly just interested to see what Sean's going to get into in the negative now because I got nothing negative to say. I don't know, Randy. What do you think?
Well, I mean, like you, I was very impressed with how skilled Jackie was as a duelist. That was, and the fact of actually using two lightsabers because she was just blowing it away. And then I'm not gonna lie, I was really shocked to lose that character. I felt like she was really starting to kind of grow on me a little bit, just her personality and the way she um, just the way Daphne Keene portrayed the character in general. She was really growing on me, and it's a shame that we had to lose her this early. A lot, even though it's not really early, but still, um, very brutal way to go too. I was really surprised by Kamir's lightsaber. That was kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie. I thought that was his style, the lightsaber he used. Um, I like how they're all his is very unique to compared to what we've seen, um, which is good. It means that there's different. We've got different styles of lightsabers, which is what we need. We don't need the same style that we get every Star Wars. And that's though if memory serves me correctly, we're supposed to see like a lightsaber whip later in these next 3 episodes as well. So that's going to be kind of cool. Um, I really enjoyed the hand-to-hand fight between Kamir and Soul. I thought that was you could feel the gravitas of the hits. Like it felt like there was definitely some weight behind those blows. That the choreography for that was really well done. Um, I think again, Soul, his acting, like just the different facial expressions, and you can see like he's on the teetering of losing control of his anger and railing it in. Like there was he's so good at just about all these different things little things he's doing while he's acting, that it draws me more and more to the character. And of course now we're going to clearly learn exactly what happened in the past. um, I do like the once again their little nod back to KOTOR, with May telling Osha that the Jedi wiped her mind, and of course Kamir hinted at that earlier in the as well in what, episode 2. So they're really kind of banking on a lot of us, a lot of us that are watching to be fans of KOTOR as well. And yeah, I mean, overall, I mean, what is it? 90% of it was just the fight, and there's about 10% dialogue. That's about it.
Yeah.
So it's really, yeah, they needed another 20 minutes just to let things breathe and have more dialogue. 30 minutes is just too short, especially when 20 of it spent just fighting. It felt like something straight out of watching Clone Wars without any real character development, except for the reveal of Khmer.
Yeah, I mean, so here's one thing I thought of now that I did not like. So Khmer has such amazing lines and a few really bad lines. Like I can't remember all the dialogue because I just saw it. With his helmet on, he had some great dialogue, like when he was saying no, 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 and then his lines about the Jedi laws and stuff like that, and I want to be who I want to be and stuff like that, which is like that's perfect. Yeah, when you have a bad guy who you're like, wait, is this even a bad guy, or is he like, this seems like a philosophy good, like a Magneto from X-Men, like that sort of stuff where you're like, okay, I understand where he's coming from. Maybe he's not doing it the right way, but those types of bad guys are the best. There was a couple of bad lines though. I can't remember exactly there. I remember thinking after, like, man, this guy's killing it, and some of these lines are amazing, but like there was a few that were really cold. I know one of them was right after he said, I might be a Sith, or you might call me a Sith. I think the next line right after that was, I thought, terrible.
About
But that guy killed it anyways, and the character seems pretty unique. And yeah, like the fact that he was so much different than, his Sith character is so much different than Khmer. I think the actor did a great job. My thing is, and I know we don't want to get too much into what the internet community thinks, but I'm wondering, like, we got so many references to video games. We got a lightsaber that spins and cuts down trees, which everybody loves to see. We got like a big battle. We got a person who says he's a Sith. We got like so many things that all these people are saying this series is lacking. I'm wondering how many people are like, okay, well, that episode was pretty good. Like, I'm wondering how many people are going to stick to their guns and just be like, oh, it sucks, I hate it, or whatever. Or how many people are going to be like, okay, well, I didn't really like the first 4 episodes, but that was pretty good. Like, because I think they gave a lot of the people who were saying, oh, this lacks this, and this lacks this, and this lacks this, I think they gave a lot of those things in that episode. So I'm very interested to see what the community will be like.
It's so hard to even begin to address that stuff, because a lot of it is, we've seen it. Like, there's people that have gripes with the show, and immediately someone will run and want to accuse them of being a bigot or sexist, and like, you can not like something or be critical of something without having any of those feelings. But then there's another large group of people who legitimately are acting that way. So it's so difficult in this space to, voice your opinion without someone jumping down your throat. And so the further we've gone in the series, the less I've paid attention to what's going on with social media. Um, Again, I need to stress that lightsaber combat is, for me, it's the best since Revenge of the Sith. And it's Force Awakens is a close second. But and I liked the gutsy decision. Like, we still have 3 episodes left. Not that that's a ton of screen time with this show, but we still have 3 episodes left, and I'm fairly confident most people, even going into this episode, thought Jecki and Yord are making it out. Jecki and Yord are making it out. They're done. The only one left is Soul. Soul, the sisters, and Chimera. That's it. Everyone else is dead. Uh, so my guess is, I know Vanestra gets involved because we've seen the marketing clip of her pulling out the lightsaber whip. Um, and I'm assuming we're going to have another flashback. So it's possible we don't get a lot of other newish characters involved in the last 3 episodes. But I thought it was a gutsy decision to kill those two characters off in this episode, because the easy decision would have been to just kill the red shirts, if you will, and move on from there. So I give them all the credit in the world for doing that. I don't have the problem most people have with the series. I don't mind that it's female led. I didn't mind the witch episode, which for me is still the best episode in this series. I love all that shit. I love the nods to Knights of the Old Republic. I think the cast has, for the most part, been quite strong. I'm not up in arms that I seen Apollo mention it earlier about like canon and stuff. Canon, it doesn't mean shit, because people go back and write stories all the time and go back, well, let's add this twist into it. Like, this is what happens when you don't keep moving forward in the timeline and you go back in time, you're going to contradict one another. The Kiadi Mundi thing, it doesn't bother me because I think there are ways around that stuff. Um, what bothers me is how lazy the show has been made. Lightsaber combat is great, and I'm sure Kieran alluded to this earlier about like binging it. I'm sure if you sit down and watch 4 episodes together all at once, and then maybe don't watch till the next day the next 4 episodes, then it comes across way better. But does anybody actually know how long this episode was? I do. Do you guys? 26 minutes and change was the actual runtime of this episode.
Wow.
The same as last week.
It
And
is
look,
crazy. It's an episode of Clone Wars. Yeah.
it's not acceptable for live action TV at $180 million. Like, I'm sorry, if you're watching House of the Dragon on Sunday, you don't even have. I'm a bigger Star Wars fan than I am Westeros. I love Star Wars. When the new movie comes out in 2026, hopefully, my ass is going to be there opening night, and I can't wait to go. You know, I went with Kieran and a bunch of other people to see the Phantom Menace re-release this year. I love it, but it doesn't mean that I have to love everything that they do. I love the premise of this series and I love the story that they are trying to tell, but I think the execution honestly is a joke. And when you're giving us 26-minute episodes, I don't want to spend too much time on this because I'm pretty sure I killed Randy with this last week. But Randy brought some of it up himself. There's no time to breathe here, guys. This felt more like video game cutscenes than any episode of TV. Not that that's bad, because I loved the lightsaber combat, but this had a chance to be something great, and instead, it felt like video game cutscenes filmed in someone's forest-like backyard. Small, nothing big scale. Um, the scope is small too. It's hard to get past that shit. I showed Jensen, who started to my little guy, my 4-year-old, has started to have a thing for the Millennium Falcon a little bit. So today I turned on a clip of The Force Awakens where Rey and Finn first get on it. And I'm watching it, I'm just like, nothing Star Wars does on TV looks anything close to that. And that's 2015. Andor, that's it. And I just don't know where they're spending $180 million. Here's another example: House of the Dragon on Sunday. Look, HBO is just doing way better things than anything Disney's doing. That's just a fact. Um, there's more attention to detail, more care, less suits getting involved. You know, and I know people are throwing Leslie Headland under the bus for a lot of this, but like, I think people need to understand when a creator comes into Star Wars now, it's not like George Lucas when George Lucas could do whatever the hell he wanted. And if you suggested something he didn't like, he told you to fucking beat it. It's not that way anymore, right? You have no choice but to deal with suits. And we have all heard horror stories of how Disney can be. And, you know, there's horror stories about the next series that comes up after this one in terms of suits getting involved, not letting John Watts do his thing, a guy who just did 3 successful Spider-Man movies. Um, but I I truly think when you can take one episode of House of the Dragon that is 70 minutes long and gives characters time to breathe and 3 of these 5 episodes basically equal the runtime of that one House of the Dragon episode. That's a joke. It's terrible. Like, if you're just next time you drop episodes like this, they're not going to, because it's all about getting people to pay for 2 months worth of subscriptions. But this would have felt better, in my opinion, and more digestible if it was 1 week we got 4 episodes and the next week we got 4 episodes, or if they did 9 episodes instead of 8 and they did 3, 3, 3. But it's about the almighty dollar, as it is in most cases. So they want your 2 months of subscription, which is fine. It's a business. But I hate it from the aspect of, like, I'm watching Jackie right now on TV go up against Kymir. Fantastic fight. Like, it's everything you could want in an on-screen Jedi versus Sith fight. But man, give this episode 15 more minutes, 20 more minutes to breathe like just a standard episode of TV. Forget the HBO comparisons. This thing isn't even Sons of Anarchy, Supernatural, Smallville, any of it, because there's no time. And it's a shame because now Jackie's dead, Yord's dead. Those are both fantastic performers in various projects. And we got to spend just so little time. Kieran, I don't know if you caught this last episode, but Jackie says to Osha, she's like, "Aw," or no, Osha says to Jackie, "Aw, are you gonna miss me?" Miss you? You spent 5 minutes with her the entire fucking series. You didn't know her before then. It's that shit drives me nuts. It insults the audience's intelligence, and it's too bad because what we do get is really good. It's just someone that is in our chat with us. I don't know if he wants me to name him, so I won't unless he wants to tell me to name him on air. But he used the comparison. It feels like really good Star Wars that time on an Instagram reel. I'm like, yeah, it is. And I feel like the performers in this deserved more time than what they got. That's my issue is all around production and how it's made, not what we're getting, because what we're getting, frankly, I like quite a bit. It's just not nearly enough.
Now, I mean, if anybody's like seen me and Sean on this channel, they've already heard this argument before. Sean is like, it's that argument that just happened there, and my argument is always like, I enjoyed it, so whatever, I don't care. It could be 15 minutes. It never really matters to me. If in the end you get 3 hours and you're like, oh, it was divided up into this many times or whatever, I'm like, yeah, well, three more hours of Star Wars. Like, it just doesn't bother me. I don't know. Like I said, it makes the episode not negative at all to me. Like, I don't. Like, I was fine with the fact that I was just fighting. So, yeah. There's no point in continuing that argument because you could rewind through our various library where we talk about Game of Thrones, or I think, was this Boba Fett? Was this a problem with Book of Boba Fett, maybe? There was one series where we definitely went on and on about this.
Kenobi, too. Book of Boba Fett and Kenobi had very short run
And
times.
quite often, Sean was like, it was only half an hour. And I'm like, half an hour of badassness or whatever. So I don't have much more to say than that, other than just kind of counterpoint that I don't know. I enjoyed every minute of it, so I don't really care how long it was. I know that I understand the idea of having character progression and stuff like that, and I mean, character progression in a 2-hour movie or a 3 or 4 hour series doesn't matter how it's divided up to me. So. I am upset that we don't get more Jackie because I feel like that was a good character. I feel like Yord, like I said already, Yord doesn't really have an arc. He just kind of is who he is the whole time. He's played well and he does his thing, but he's like that non-player character that just always drives his own narrative. Like, he doesn't ever grow. You don't ever get to play as him. You don't ever get to give him decisions. He just does. He just says, "This is me. This is me. This is me. This is me." And then that's all, So I don't know where else to go from here because at the end, so we get lightsaber battles, we get a ton of them, and then we get Osha and May at the end, and a neat little tussle between them. And then we get May pretending to be Osha and wondering where that's going to go. I do think Sean's right. I think we're probably going to get a flashback episode, maybe next, maybe right when they get on the plane and Soul says this is what happened. But I'm not sure. Not sure if I like where that's going or not, or if that's going to be a longer, like it could be a short thing and mean nothing that May replaced Osha, or it could be a long-term thing, which I think I would approve of a lot more. I hope that it's not revealed really quickly, like on the plane. She's not like, haha, I'm May. I hope that it, goes on longer than that. That would be my only thing that kind of scares me about that swerve.
I think Soul knows it's May. He's just playing along. I honestly think that's going to be the reveal, that he knew all along it was her. Plus, you have the little tracker dude that's going to know that she doesn't smell like Osha. So there's going to be little things that are going to hint at that, I think.
I hope he just shoves that guy in a garbage chute.
Then that'd be pretty funny. No, as much as I enjoyed the episode, and I did, especially considering it was a lot better than last week. My biggest gripe is because as much as say, like, I've been playing a lot of Jedi Survivor lately, and obviously I love the combat. I love being able to do Jedi things with Cal Kestis, but the interactions with the people and the flashbacks he's having and memories and things that are actually happening that we get dialogue from, it builds character, and it makes me saying, well, I put 30 hours in so far. This is totally worth it because the story has me engaged. There's character growth. There's some things I wasn't expecting to happen. But here in this episode, beyond the reveal of Kamir being a Sith apprentice, essentially, even though he's like, I don't have a name, you can call me a Sith. Well, that's fine. And seeing his juxtaposition of going bumbling Jar Jar Binks moron to menacing and oozing evil and arrogance, that's great. I'm not going to complain about the performances of anybody. I am going to complain about the fact that I want more story. I want character development. I want to care more about some of these characters. And really, the only one that I'm even semi-attached to at this point is Master Soul, because of he's been front and center pretty much the entire time. You get to see just how well he acts in all these different situations, and just you feel for this guy. Whereas some of these people, like we'll say with Yord, very stoic but arrogant, but he's very duty driven. Jackie is the high energy, almost has a very young Ahsoka feel to her at times because of just that amount of energy she has. But also watching her dual wield lightsabers, I'm like, well, we can see where they're pulling from, because she was a badass. And again, character cut short, where to the point of where it's like, I was just getting into the character. I was just starting to really like the energy she brought to the group, and now it's gone. So it's like, for every little story bit we're getting, that's as we're pushing towards the final 3 episodes, I feel like we're getting robbed of opportunities, and it's frustrating. Don't get me wrong, I love new Star Wars. I'm always happy to get new Star Wars. I'm always happy to digest it. But I want more. I was expecting more from all this. And if all we're going to get is 30-minute episodes the rest of the way, I don't know how we're going to get a satisfying conclusion. Not that I'm saying I'm not hoping for it. Don't get me wrong. I'm hoping that they stick the landing. But ultimately, I just these episodes needed an extra 15, 20 minutes. All of them did, not just last week or this week or the week before. All of them needed a little more time. We needed a little more character development. Like Sean said, and I'm gonna just be like cursing your name after pointing out all the production stuff, because especially after watching House of the Dragon, and I'm just like, damn it, seriously, this is. And I'm like, and I just sit there and I'm watching, like, yeah, thanks, Sean. Thanks for. I'm just now picking this stuff out too, and I'm just like, ignorance is bliss. That's all I'm going to say about that.
This is why I always say never talk to Sean. Don't be friends with him. Don't go on a podcast. Some people have asked me before, like, should I go on a podcast? Sean says I can go on a podcast, and I say, don't fucking do it. It'll ruin your life. I'll tell you about how much everything costs, how much runtime is in every episode, and then you're just going to turn into a fucking troll yelling at clouds.
Nah, no, definitely not. Not to that extent, anyway.
Give me real trees.
But it's not like they can't do it, guys. Like,
right.
Everyone here seen The Force Awakens and Rogue One, and hell, even The Last Jedi and Solo. I'm not going to go as far as Rise of Skywalker because there's a bunch of shortcuts with that one. But even Solo, like big set pieces, large scale scope, even in a smaller story. I don't know where the money's going. And Spooky in the chat, you don't need to worry about that. We're the last three people that you're ever going to find complaining about wokeness. We're definitely not bigots or racists or sexist, and I don't think any of us have a problem that Amanda Stenberg's basically playing the two female leads. We don't have a problem that she's African American. I don't have a problem that Sol and Kymir are played by Asians. That's all fine. That's great. You get talent.
I don't even have a problem with the fact that R2D2 is a lesbian now. That's cool with me. I don't care.
It's about talent. Like Randy just mentioned it with like House of the Dragon too. Like if we watch that and cover that, and the three of us are a part of coverage with that stuff too, and it's like which is why we commented on our Legacy of Westeros account by accident there. But it's like none of that stuff bothers us. We're not that type of people. We're not that type of show. When we have an issue, it has to usually do with either story, acting, or the technical side of things. And this show's doing a lot of things good. It's just frustrating that this show could be great and it's just okay for me. And then also, I guess, kind of spoiler alert, possibly. If you've played Knights of the Old Republic, and I know the three people here have, Randy nailed it earlier. Like, they are, if you haven't played, then you don't know and you're good. But if you have played, that is reference number 2 to the Revan mind wipe. And for me, I seen Kymir happening episodes ago. And now I see, oh, they totally fucked around with Osha. They did something to her. May knows it. It's coming. What? I have no idea. But that's coming. So I love the inspiration from Knights of the Old Republic. I know Leslie Headland's huge in Knights of the Old Republic. I don't know if she just wasn't allowed the time to stretch episodes out. It's not so much the runtime, by the way, guys. If we had 12 of these things or 14 of these things at this runtime, that's still more time to breathe. It's the fact that this thing has taken 3+ years to come to life, and we get 8 of them, which are going to equal about 4 hours in runtime. It doesn't do the people that are putting on really good performances justice because they didn't have time. And that's my biggest issue. But like, again, there's so much good going on, and like I have it playing on mute in the background right now while doing this episode. And like Kymir, I know he had a couple of not great lines there, but the actor who plays him from The Good Place, like that transition from I'm almost wannabe Jar Jar Binks to, yeah, I'm basically young Palpatine, and not one of you guys really had any of a chance of stopping me. It was like watching Goldberg wreck through people in early WCW days, right? Like or Stone Cold coming out to beat up all of WCW. It was, I enjoy that aspect, but it could have been more. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, the Sith characters are almost always should be more dangerous than the Jedi characters because, like as referenced, like Jedi, they don't fight people without a weapon. They don't do whatever. Like they're not trained to just kill, and they're not assassins. Whereas that's the kind of thing that Sith are trained in, right? I do want to say, like for my point of view, like I know that I think that Game of Thrones is the best show that's ever happened. It's number one. It's the most well made and everything. I'm not looking for that when I jump into Star Wars. I'm not generally looking for that type of slow storytelling. Now, Andor was my favorite Star Wars show so far, and it was the closest in terms of character development and slow burning story and and really unfolding things, and so it was effective. So, but when I jump into Star Wars, quite often that's not what I'm expecting. Like I like to go and just pick out random Clone Wars episodes and just watch them. Like I don't have to go through the whole story. I don't have to go through the whole arc. I like watching them sometimes like it's Saturday morning cartoons and it's the middle of a story arc, whatever. Oh, I remember this one has this character in it. I'm gonna go watch that. So it doesn't bother me that it's not as slow paced and even if you want to say well told or well written, it doesn't bother me so much in that way, and that I just want to enjoy Star Wars almost as a kid, almost the same as just as a kid. So that sort of stuff doesn't bother me, but I do want to say it's not lost on me that there wasn't really any character development. Like I pushed back, but at the same time, I do acknowledge that you guys are right with when it comes to, like that episode was a whirlwind. And right after we probably all came down here, we were probably all like, what happened to that episode? There was really cool lightsaber fighting. What were the plot points? And you're like, there was like two. There was like two plot points. So I agree with you in that way, but it doesn't bother me. It just does. Like I acknowledge that like it could have been better in that way, and you'll see in my score for the episode, even though I seem to be the highest on this episode, that it's still not going to break a certain barrier that I'm waiting for an episode to break. And so I do agree with you guys. I think it bothers me less than it bothers you guys.
Before Randy jumps back in here, if like go back to episode 4, and if you remember, a lot of people were critical about that because it was a lot of nothing, right? Like I had production issues with that one too. I didn't have as many production issues with the first 2 episodes, to be honest, but the last 3, I think it's really shown. Sorry, the last 2 episodes it's really shown. But when you look at that episode 4, it almost feels like episode 4 and episode 5 are one episode that they, cut in half. You had like your setup from the episode before, and then you had what should have been the climax of that episode, but the climax is its own episode. It's like, so we're being ripped off an episode. It's what it feels like. And 1 and 2 felt the same way. 3, to me, is the only episode that's had the appropriate amount of time to breathe and tell a proper story, which is your flashback episode. And then it feels like 1 and 2 are one episode, and 4 and 5 are another episode. That being said, I don't expect Star Wars to be Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon. Maybe if George Lucas was still doing it, but the problem I have is House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones are heavily inspired in terms of their production off of old Star Wars. Like it's like massive sets going on location, and we were
I don't
watching
know
the
if you want to take the dialogue of the old Star Wars versus the dialogue of Game of Thrones. Now,
Oh no, yeah. But what was it
I don't.
Harrison Ford said?
I
You
don't
can
think you want to put George Lucas back on that.
no.
That's a that's
Although
a
at
topic
times it
for
feels
another
like it
day,
is.
but that's a topic for after the season's over. We can talk about that.
I I want a large scale Star Wars show again, and I or we're gonna get it with Andor next year, but like I want that with Jedi too. You know what I mean? Like Andor is great, but Andor is a political drama that's probably going to turn more into a thriller this upcoming season. Um, it'd be nice to see the Jedi involved in that sort of thing. Um, but all in all, I just wish it had more time to breathe. The lightsaber combat, though, I go back to it. Like this is the type of I just watched it on mute, and I'm sitting here being like, "Holy shit!" Like Chimera is totally young Palpatine. Obviously, he's not, but um, let's go there for a second before we get into scores. Who do we think he is? Now, Plagueis has no species for canon anymore. He was a immune or whatever in Legends, but there's nothing in canon that says that's what he is now. So they could screw around with the species. Do we think this is Plagueis? Do we think this is Plagueis' apprentice? Or do we think this is just the group of Sith that come before Plagueis is involved, which in Legends was Tenebris. Actually, sorry, Tenebris was Plagueis's apprentice before Palpatine gets involved. But where do we think we are here? I know Randy said he thinks it's the apprentice, but in terms of the line of Sith that we know, which is really only Plagueis and then Palpatine and obviously others who come in the movies, where do we think we are in the Sith line?
I'll let Randy go first. See, I talk. He hasn't talked in a while.
I definitely feel it's definitely before Plagueis. I feel like this could be um, the resurgence of the Sith. Maybe this dude felt, maybe he was a young Padawan who felt persecuted for wanting to, maybe he was just taken too late, which is why you see them now being more so focused on before the child has attachments. Maybe he was part of that rule where the reason one of the reasons why they choose to take children at such a young age now. Who knows? Maybe we'll get some backstory on this guy, but I'm not gonna lie. I kind of hope we get something, maybe like the Planet of Korriban or something like that, just to kind of bring that into where he saying that's where he was, found a Sith holocron and started to learn through that. That'd be kind of a neat backstory for him if that was the case. But I feel like there has to be someone else pulling the strings, because we know the rule of two would still be in effect, and especially since he was talking about May as more of an acolyte rather than an apprentice. So that tells me he's the apprentice and he does answer to a higher power. It's just, will we learn about that higher power? And I think that's one of the biggest issues I have with the series right now is knowing that Leslie Headlands come out and said that we're going to tie everything up in a neat bow in one season, when this feels like something that could go on for years and give us more backstory about the Sith and their rise to power and what they did to finally get eventually leading up to Palpatine taking over, leading up to the events of episode 1. I mean, they really could have easily taken this series and led to that, but because it's supposed to be a one season show, they're gonna rush it, and and it just worries me. That worries we're not going to find out who the Sith master really is, Sith Lord, and that it's going to pretty much end with Khmer. And I kind of hope, I'm really hoping that that isn't the case, that we get a bigger payoff. But this is definitely pre-Plagueis, or leading up to Plagueis at least.
Yeah, I don't think this could be Plagueis. I really I agree with most of what Randy says. An acolyte is not an apprentice. They labeled Sith, so I don't think they're going to label anything other than apprentice if he is the master. And I think the rule of two is something that's not going to be violated. So I agree 100% with what Randy says. I can see very easily at the end of this, like, because this is, even though we're telling the side of the story from the good guy point of view, this is the Acolyte. It's named after the evil character, or its idea of the show is centered around the bad guy characters. So I think that at the end we could very well maybe not get who Khemir's master is, but we could get like some sort of plan, or some sort of like a voiceover saying like, this is what we're going to do, like this is what the Sith are going to do, or this is where we're focused on next, we're going to take over. We're going to get into political ranks, we're going to infiltrate, we're going to whatever, we're going to be sneaky, and kind of just get into the philosophy of what Palpatine does, whether it's that, or whether it's the revealing of another character, or maybe we find a master. I don't know. Do we know about the possibility of season 2 for this, or does this have to be a one season thing?
So I'm just gonna be blunt here and say we're not getting season 2 of this show because of the backlash. The numbers have fallen off pretty severely from the first week's 2-episode debut. Let me put it up this way: even though, like, someone like me who's come around quite a bit on The Last Jedi, still not a fan of the Canto Bite stuff, but really come around on a lot of the other aspects of it, especially the production quality of it. They had every opportunity to go back to Ryan Johnson after that, before he started doing his Knives Out stuff, and they've intentionally avoided it because of the amount of backlash and divisiveness. And I assure you, because of the response to this, and people can say it's a quiet few. Sadly, it's not. It's
streaming
somewhere
numbers
between 30 and 50% of, I reluctantly call them Star Wars fans, but whether you agree with their takes or not, or the way they handle it, they're still people whose money they want. And I think that it's going to hurt any opportunity at a season 2 of this show. But Leslie Headland did say that they designed this season specifically to be like a one story thing, but that if they needed to expand, obviously there are ways that they could do that. But we're not going to get some cliffhanger ending that's never going to be answered. So I guess that's a relief in
they're not
some
going to
aspect.
Firefly us.
So
Wait.
One day.
Yeah, no, okay. Well, so going on with my thought then, I think that's where it will lead. I think it's going to be kind of a revelation of how the Sith operate. I do think there's a good chance the next 3 episodes are more about Khmer than anyone else as well. There's a little bit left to do to tie up the story of like Osha and May, but I think that mostly involves Soul just telling what happened. And I think that's actually a pretty cool idea. All right, you're my friend now, Dustin. I think that I think that we could get a few Khmer episodes and learn a little bit more about him, and I think that would be great. And then it could end with this sort of revelation of what the Sith are going to do in the future, and kind of ideologically lead to what happens with Palpatine. And I think that would be a really cool way to wrap it up. Maybe the Sith, maybe they get defeated in such a way that they're like, but this wasn't a defeat. This was our plan the whole time, and off to Palpatine is where we're going to go. So,
I think for me, I'm not saying they're going to stay with the name, but Tenebris was Plagueis's first apprentice, and even though he was not a human, one of the big things that's notable about him is he would do this levitating thing where sort of carries himself like Magneto. And last episode, this character did exactly that, and it was like, that's a little on the nose. So, um, if I had to guess, I'm guessing that Plagueis is the master at this point, and we're gonna get almost none of him. Hell, we might not even get him referred to as Plagueis in Legends. Plagueis is his Sith name, but the name he's known by in public is Hugo Damask. So definitely, even though it's Legends, I would recommend anyone who has a chance to brush up on the audiobook or the novel of that to absolutely do so, because it's a story that is filled with all sorts of great stuff. I know Tommy B's doing it right now, and he's loving it. So that's where my bet is, but I could very well be wrong. I could also see this being there is no apprentice, and it's only Chimere, and Soul's gonna die. I think Soul's dying is basically a must anyway. But and then it's gonna come down to, all right, well, I'm gonna train one of you or kill you both. So the two sisters, can now fight to see who survives. And if they go that route, it's gonna be such an eye roll because it's so fucking predictable. Um, hopefully they don't go that way. But again, lots of good, just a bit of bad in this one, and I liked it. Without further ado, though, what that means is it's time to rank this episode with Kieran's favorite ranking system we've ever done. Not that he's ever told me that, but it's how many Neimoidians out of 10 do you fellas give this episode? And don't forget, we got Darth M count looking down at you. Randy, let's start with you, man. What are you giving it and why?
So, shutting my brain off and just kind of sitting there and watching. Um, I'm gonna give it a 7, just because it was definitely better than last week. I think last week I gave it a 6. Um, so definitely better than last week. The action was amazing. A lot, even whether it's the lightsaber duels, or just the hand to hand combat stuff, it was done so well. And I like the fact that I was shocked that characters that I was starting to like didn't make it. So I liked having that little punch in the gut to kind of wake me up a little bit. But other than that, I can't go higher than a 7 just because I feel like, as I said earlier, that we've been robbed of opportunities because of the short run time, and this episode is no different. And that's kind of where I'm at.
Kieran?
I was going to give it a 10 out of 10, but then I talked to Sean, and now it's like 2.5.
Oh my god. I thought I've been pretty fair with it, but that's just me.
But no, I'm very specifically really easily going to give it an 8.5, because in order for something to be a 9, it has to hit on all categories. Like I rarely ever give anything a 10, so I don't know what. Like 5 episodes of Game of Thrones will get a 10, and 5 episodes of Breaking Bad might give a 10 from me. But so it's going to be 8.5 because I enjoyed it as much as I possibly can, where it's a pretty one-trick pony episode. So I'm going to give it 8.5. Whatever. I get it didn't hit story points. It didn't hit so many things, but I had an erection for half an hour, and that's all that I was happy with that. So,
Yikes.
Half an hour, guys.
He had a Nemoidian erection.
Exactly.
So I'm going to give this episode 7.5 out of 10 because the stuff that it does is very good. It does it on just an absolute tremendous level. One of the other things that's bothering me, though, that I haven't pointed out, and it is production based, simply based off of the Force Awaken clips I watched today, is what is, I think it's the same sound design team too, but like, what the hell has happened to the sound design? I'm not talking score, because I think the score has been a little better in this show than some of the more recent ones, but the sound design is just not hitting the way it used to. The sound effects and just the high quality of it. Andor is pretty good with it, but Andor, you're not getting the lightsaber sound effects. It's the one thing I thought in this episode where it's like, we got the great choreograph, but at the end of the day, there was still some things missing. But again, the fighting was so awesome. I wish I remembered the actor's name who plays Chimera. Have nothing but praise for him for the most part. Soul, um, again, forget his actor's name as well, but never ever done an English role before now. Learned English just to come in and do this. There's so much positive here that it does feel criminal that we're getting robbed of some of the other things. But I'm going to give it a 7.5. I can't go any higher than that, but it's probably going to be a long time before we see lightsaber combat like that again. And I don't think they'll capture that again in this series. And it's definitely not happening with Skeleton Crew. It's not that kind of story. It's definitely not happening with Andor season 2. So maybe the next movie when it comes out in 2026. But that's going to be hard to replicate. I thought it was done very well. Final thoughts, guys, on the episode, and more specifically, what comes next? Like, what are you hoping to get out of the last 3 episodes? Randy, don't say 60-minute episodes. It's not happening.
Yeah, I know. Don't remind me. So looked it up real quick. It's Manny Jacinto playing Chimera, and Lee Jung Jae as Sol. I hope I pronounce it right. Asian names are always difficult because of their different pronunciations. Um, Overall thoughts. Again, like I said, 7 out of 10. It was a good episode. Not great. Potential for greatness. It had potential for greatness. Didn't breathe enough. Going forward, obviously, we have to get at least one more flashback because Soul, I'm going to assume, is gonna, no pun intended, bear his soul to May, even though everybody's led to believe he's going to think it's Osha. Explaining exactly what happened. And probably give a little more weight to when Torben died, when he was just like, we thought we were doing the right thing. Because you're left with that right before he died, and even the flashback didn't give you any clues. So we have to get this flashback that's going to give us more. We need to understand exactly this evil that Soul is struggling with, that Chimera is actually pointed out when they were having their interaction. But ultimately, and as much as I don't want it to happen, I know it's going to happen. Soul eventually having to either atone for what he did in one way or another, more likely a sacrifice, which will spur probably Osha and May forward to, rise up and stand up against Chimera. But I mean, that's my guess. But it seems like they don't have a problem surprising you and doing things that you would not expect them to do. So I'm kind of hoping that I'm wrong and that we get something completely surprising and shocking that we never saw coming.
I kind of already gave my answer to this because the more I think of it, the more I would like to get the flashback. So say next episode is get the flashback. Second last episode is a lot more about Chimera and why how he got to be this way, how he was able to contact May, all that sort of stuff. Get a little bit more about him, and then last little episode, tie that little bow on and wrap it all together. I do think that there's a high probability. Not well. I think there's a good chance that they fumble this, and yes, it's cookie cutter Marvel type of ending where you pretty much see it coming. But I'm still optimistic. If they do it in such a way that I still enjoy it, then I'll still enjoy it. So, I don't know. I'm kind of in the middle right now between being optimistic and pessimistic about what the future of the series is going to be. But all I know is I've enjoyed 80 to 90% of it so far. So
I think there'll be one more big twist to come. The problem is, I think we figured it out on this episode. So after that, I just hope that if Soul's gonna die, I hope we get to spend more time with him. Honestly, at this point, my wants are pretty low. Give me more time with Soul, give me more time with Kymir, and make it clear where he is in the line. If he's the apprentice, stay. He's the apprentice. Even if you're not showing the master, make it clear. Don't leave it ambiguous. Um, and yeah, I know we're not getting. Forget an hour episode. I don't think we're getting another 45-minute episode of actual runtime because it hasn't happened yet. So my expectations are low. But that being said, episode 3 was a flashback. Kind of makes me think episode 6 is going to be a flashback, and then you get 2 chapters to finish off the current story. But we'll have to wait and see what happens. If you watch the live stream tonight, big thank you for coming out. It was a fairly active chat tonight. Reminder that all of our Star Wars content is moving over to the Legacy of Star Wars. There'll be a short little video clip that I post on this channel that will direct you over to that channel where you'll be able to find all sorts of things over there, not just episode reviews, but we're going to dive back into lores and the lore, lightsaber fights, novels, video games, everything you can think of. We're definitely going to be approaching content differently over there. Same with our Westeros stuff. If you're a fan of Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, you won't be able to find that content on this channel anymore. Head on over to the Legacy of Westeros and subscribe. And then, honestly, these are 2 of the guys that have helped make Fandom Empire what it is. Kieran for a couple of years, very heavily in the preparation for Halloween Kills during the pandemic, all the way up through Halloween Ends, and Randy here at the tail end of everything. One of the things we're going to do in the next, probably the second week of July, is we're going to do a big party live stream. We'll try to figure out a schedule that works for everything, and we're going to talk Star Wars on it. But we're also going to talk Halloween and horror as well, and just sort of have some fun and send it off properly before Beyond or Haddonfield and Beyond starts. And again, we just appreciate everybody that has participated in the content to this point in time, whether it's on air or off air. And yeah, thanks for coming out. Looking forward to doing more Star Wars content, and hopefully the Acolyte wraps strong. Again, I don't think it's been a bad show. I just think it could have been a great show, and we'll see how it wraps. Hopefully not cookie cutter like Kieran was saying there. Hopefully we get a little more in depth than that. But until next time, for Randy and Kieran, I'm Sean. May the Force be with you.